Texas Tech men's basketball lays an absolute egg against the Longhorns at home, losing 81-69 in the last matchup between these two men's basketball programs for the foreseeable future. In today's video, we'll recap the game, discuss the Brock Cunningham incident, and discuss what Texas Tech has to change in the final 3 games of the regular season in order to make the NCAA tournament. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And before we get into today's recap video / rant, I want to hear from you guys. Give me your one word to describe this Texas Tech men's basketball loss at, just the friendly confines of the USA. But, man, that one was just absolutely brutal in a lot of ways. Let's just be real for Texas Tech. But I want to hear your one-word reaction to the Red Raiders' loss at home against Texas. I mean, there's so many words that I could say right now. Some of them probably aren't safe to say around children, so I'll wait to give my one word here in a little bit, but I want to hear from you guys, so let me know down in the pinned comment down below. The Red Raiders were no-shows in this one. Let's just call it what it is, right? They were no-shows. They lost 81-69 to the Longhorns in the last matchup between these two schools for the foreseeable future, and last night's happenings probably didn't help the case in terms of prolonging this series. But this game really felt like it was over in the first 5 minutes. Texas Tech came out sluggish. They had multiple turnovers, what felt like in the blink of an eye as soon as tip-off happened, and had just simply one of the worst halves of basketball that I remember a Texas Tech men's basketball team having in the time that I've covered Texas Tech, created content around it, or discussed the program, where they scored 23 points in the first half, and they were just simply putrid. I mean, in every metric you look at, they were awful. I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? Now, Pop Isaacs led the way in scoring in this one with 17. Darrion Williams had 16, just right behind him. But Texas Tech was thoroughly outclassed on the boards once again, losing the rebounding battle 44-30. Oh, and by the way, Texas scored 34 bench points. The Red Raiders only scored 13. Now, what everybody's talking about, and it was there in the thumbnail, you saw it, the Brock Cunningham getting ejected incident where he wanted to, I guess, put his name in the NFL draft and try and become a defensive end and send Darrion Williams about 15 rows deep, at least try to. Instead, he just sent him right into the TV broadcast right there in Fran Fraschella's lap damn near. It was a dirty play. Let's just call it what it is. Nobody's surprised by that behavior from Brock Cunningham. That's one of the reasons he's on the floor for Texas. That said, it had no outcome on this game. 0. If anything, it actually helped Texas Tech to get back into the game, quote unquote, at least make a concerted effort for it. But by that time, this game was donezo. It was a wrap. I mean, Texas Tech was down 29 points at one point in this game. They were awful for a majority of this one. Now, in the second half, they scored 46 points, but it felt like Texas just kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit and was like, all right, we're just trying not to let anything else happen here after the fiasco that was the Brock Cunningham dirty-ass play on Darrion Williams. Now, when it comes down to it, I think Texas Tech fans are most concerned from the standpoint of you're not healthy right now. And Warren Washington did not play in this game, and Lord knows he probably didn't change the outcome of it. Now, it probably would have been closer, but you have to start thinking forward now for Texas Tech in the sense of the committee. What is the committee going to think about Texas Tech if they continue to play to the level that they played really over the past, 2 weeks now? Now, the TCU game, you won that game. Great job there at home. But overall, Texas Tech has not shot the ball well. They've been thoroughly outclassed from a physicality standpoint. And that's something that Grant McCasland has talked about all year long, that they have to get more physical. They just simply haven't. They don't have very much length. And you have to wonder what kind of changes need to be made. And we'll discuss my opinions on them here in just a second. But you also have to wonder, with the way Texas Tech has been playing recently, these next 3 games are huge for Texas Tech. I think you need to win one more. And this is coming from a guy that said if they get to 8 wins in Big 12 play, they're a lock. I don't know anymore, man. I may have spoke too soon. I'll be the first to admit it. Because if you lose 5 in a row and then lose your game in the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, that's fresh on the committee's mind. And that might just put you firmly on the bubble. And if you're on the bubble, that's not where you want to be with a 6-game losing streak. It's just not. We'll talk about some of the changes that I think need to be made and hear from the head man himself. from a video from Sean Dillon over on Twitter here in just a second. But if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. I will have a Texas Tech football recruiting update here on the channel in the next, well, let's just say by the end of the week, discussing the class of 2025 for the Texas Tech football team and what Joey McGuire and crew have done from a national perspective and also a Big 12 perspective. So if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech football recruiting, but also Texas Tech men's basketball recruiting as the offseason is quickly approaching. Hopefully the Red Raiders are in March, but let's face it, the portal starts relatively quickly after the season does officially end for really any team in the country. So if you want to stay in the know on the latest portal happenings for Texas Tech men's basketball and what's going on in the 2025 recruiting class for Texas Tech football, do these 3 things for me. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. All right. As I mentioned, we've got a video here. This is from Sean Dillon over on Twitter from Grant McCasland and really his thoughts after the game against Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it in the mirror and you tell the truth, man. We in a significant game of a lot of magnitude, and it is one basketball game. That's where you got to try to put it in perspective and tell our guys. That's what I told them in the locker room. We're playing. This is a big deal to me. This game is, obviously. But we're also playing to get better and to figure out how to play in March and how to play deep into March. And so the only thing you can do is get better from this and stare it in the face. I walked in the locker room. Y'all can imagine. You walk in there and there's a lot of people standing there, administrators, everybody's looking at you like, oh, crud, what happened? You know what happened? We got beat bad in a significant game. And I did a terrible job of preparing us. So what you do is you look at it in the mirror and you tell the truth and you figure out how you're going to improve and get better. That's the truth. So that's what I told them. And when you look back I've been a part of a lot of disappointing losses, but we ended the season and found a way to win championships. And when you look back at those, if that can propel you forward, it's all part of the process. And it is one game in the Big 12, even though it's significant to all of us.
I mean, there's no debating that Texas Tech got the right guy in Grant McCasland. I don't think anybody's going to question that. But some changes have to be made. Simple and plain. The final 3 games of the season, you are at West Virginia on Saturday. You are at Oklahoma State next week during the week. And then senior night is your final game next Saturday against Baylor at home at the USA. And again, I want to give Grant McCasland credit because a lot of coaches could have gone up there and, put blame on every other person. But the self-awareness in that post-game presser is super refreshing to see. That said, some changes have to be made. And Warren Washington will not be 100% for the rest of the season for Texas Tech. That is a certainty. That is a fact. It is not going to change. Now, could he get to 90%? Maybe. But right now and how he looked after that UCF game and then him not playing at all against Texas, you have to be concerned about the level of play that this team has right now. And now I think that there's one thing clear for Texas Tech that they saw last night for pretty lengthy stretches, if we're being honest. The small ball lineup is the way to go. I truly believe that. And when I say the small ball lineup, I mean having Joe Toussaint at the point guard position with Pop, Chance, Kerwin, and Darrion. I know what you're thinking. RC, holy shit. There's nobody taller than 6'5" on the floor for Texas Tech. I hear you. That's where a zone comes in. And then you're probably laughing at me at that point too. But if you run a 1-3-1 zone, you're just basically forcing guys to determine, okay, are you going to shoot threes? And I'll be honest with you. I don't know your feeling about it, but I'd rather a team shoot a 3 than a layup. Okay. And this team allows you to do the most offensively. Now, on the defensive glass perspective, to get out and transition, where I think Texas Tech would capitalize most with this lineup, it's all hands on deck. I think you literally send 4 at the glass all at one time. Darrion, Kerwin, Chance, Pop. And then you have Joe ready for the leak out to go and get in transition. That's what I think you do. But I'm interested to see if maybe they go with the zone approach and play this small ball lineup a little bit more, because it was very effective for Texas Tech. And it's clearly the best lineup that Texas Tech has right now with Warren Washington being hurt. Now, I know what you're also thinking. RC, what about RJ? What about Kyron? What about Ameli Elahu? Yeah, I think sprinkle in some minutes for them total, maybe around 25. That way you can have some rest and everything like that and play whoever has the hot hand that night. I think that that's the approach you have to have if you're Texas Tech when it comes to the 5 position. But I really want to see this small ball lineup even more in longer stretches and maybe even throw a zone at teams as well to combat the size aspect of it, because this team just has to try something different. It has to try something different with no Warren Washington on the floor, or else you're talking about a team that goes from securely into the tournament to firmly on the bubble. And remember what I said earlier in the video, you do not want to be on the bubble and have a 5-game losing streak, potentially 6-game losing streak on your resume to end the season and have that firmly on the mind of committee members. It's not ideal. I've got to ask it now. I'm not trying to panic anybody. I'm really not. But does Texas Tech make the NCAA tournament? Just a simple Y for yes or N for no. I'm right there with you, Red Raider Nation. I'm down bad too right now. That performance has me thinking. I mean, my one word is abysmal. I mean, I said it a little earlier, but that was an abysmal performance by Texas Tech. Absolute no-show. Put a hyphen in there to make it one word. Just absolutely deplorable, despicable, whatever word you want to put in there. You gave yourself no chance to win that basketball game. Zero. But here we are, Texas Tech. You got 3 chances to really win another game. And I think if you get to 9 wins in the Big 12, you're a lock at that point, regardless of who you beat. But it's not going to be easy, as you got to go on the road twice. And we know that winning on the road in the Big 12 is damn near impossible, regardless of who you're playing. And then you play one of the best teams in the country on senior night at home in the Baylor Bears to close out your season. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, if you want to stay in the know on Texas Tech men's basketball and football all year long on the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube, do these 3 things for me. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.